Hello everybody, I'm Thomas Burkhardt for NASA Spaceflight, and I'm here to talk with Jared Isaacman and Scott Kidd-Petit about the newly announced Polaris program. Now, Polaris is a new partnership with SpaceX for up to 3 human spaceflight missions, with the goal of demonstrating technologies and capabilities that will be used on future Moon and Mars missions. The program will actually culminate with the first crewed flight on Starship. Now, Jared and Scott are both on the crew of the first mission, Polaris Dawn, which is scheduled to launch on a Crew Dragon spacecraft as early as later this year. And that mission aims to break an altitude record set by the Gemini program, as well as conduct the first ever commercial spacewalk. Jared and Scott, thank you so much, both of you, for taking some time. Just a few questions about the Polaris announcement, which was really exciting. First things first, you're building off of the Inspiration 4 mission, which raised over $200 million for St. Jude. How is that effort going to be continuing for the Polaris program?
Yeah, well, as we said at the conclusion of Inspiration 4, that work was not complete. That mission will always continue until St. Jude's vision of no child dying in the dawn of life is delivered upon. So I think what we're trying to do now, in addition to raising funds, is bringing a little more attention, awareness to their global initiative. They've taken a lot of the funds that we raised as part of Inspiration 4 and put it to the St. Jude Global Health Initiative. And what they're trying to do is take the protocols for their kind of life-saving treatments and in conjunction with other nonprofits distributed across the world. Because right now, the number one factor in childhood cancer survival rates is just simply where you're born in the world. And there are plenty of parts of the world right now that have the same childhood survival rates as what it was in the United States before St. Jude even existed, more than 60 years ago. So it shouldn't be that way. And if you think about it, some of the elements that we're incorporating in the mission, like Starlink connectivity, can absolutely be used, to connect, some of the hardest places of the world to reach. And then through telemedicine, ideally, get help to families that don't even realize they need the benefit of a St. Jude. So I think like a lot of it is the same as before. We need to do something about this. We have like a real problem here on Earth that we should be putting energy towards, but then also incorporating elements of our mission like Starlink capability to spread the message globally.
Also continuing from Inspiration 4, you're carrying some scientific payloads on board Polaris Dawn, for example. Can you tell us a little bit about what fields you're going to be looking at? Is it just health and medicine, or are there some other scientific fields that will also be researched on this first mission?
Yeah, so if you notice from our press release, we probably have 3 times the number of education institutions we're working with on this one compared to the one previously. And the benefit there is because we have multiple missions. So we're able to kind of go through a list of various science research, tech demo experiments, and then prioritize which ones we think are best for this mission. For example, given just the target apogee, you're probably going to prioritize for Polaris Dawn a lot more like radiation specific, research experiments. So we have a number of those already in mind. In addition to, kind of the bio, like the biobank data that we were contributing from Inspiration 4, that'll of course be a component to it. But it's quite a bit. I don't know if Scott, Kid, you want to layer in some more?
No, I mean, initially when we started these conversations with the institutions and organizations to figure out what we could possibly accomplish, we set some lofty goals. We wanted to identify the biggest challenges associated with making space exploration more accessible, especially for long duration space flight. So with regard to SANS, and numerous other challenges with radiation, these organizations have now gone back and taken that as a challenge to figure out exactly what they could accomplish and task us to work on and with regard to experiments during this mission.
Yeah, I think one in particular that kids should talk about, which they're at least from the flight surgeon's perspective, could be real groundbreaking work is intracranial pressure and the impact that has on space adaptation syndrome and actually some ocular related issues. So you want to talk about how you're participating in that?
So I gotta earn my keep on this mission. So I've volunteered myself to participate. They're still going through the approval process, regulatory challenges associated with this. But, up to this point, NASA has done a lot of testing with regard to ICP, but it's been mainly pre and post-flight and mainly non-invasive. What is being discussed now, and we're working through, this experiment, is an invasive ICP experiment where they would surgically implant a transducer below the rib cage with a catheter attached that goes into the spine, which ultimately measures cerebral fluid in the spine, and see the effects of not only pre-flight, but during the mission itself, as well as post-flight, and the impact that micro and zero gravity have on the brain.
Myself and Sarah and Anna are thrilled that Kid volunteered for this experiment specifically.
Gotcha. Very cool. You mentioned that there's 3 different missions, so more science opportunities. What kind of science capabilities are you expecting to be offered on missions 2 and 3?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, obviously, we're not going to be as volume limited on Starship as we are on Dragon.
Of course.
So if we're looking at things that might take up a little bit more space, we'd probably shift that a little bit to the right. But as we learn from Polaris Dawn, and as SpaceX learns from their Starship work in Starbase, it's ultimately, we're going to kind of combine that information to ultimately inform what the objectives should be for the second mission, which I would think generally are all going to revolve around de-risking ultimately the first human flight to Starship.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll kind of look at the list of science and research, which isn't ending. I mean, we have a dedicated director on the Polaris program who's solely working with science and research institutions. And the thing is, once you have an announcement like today, the number of inbounds increases
Sure.
substantially, which is fantastic, because we've said the entire time, myself and Kid, as well as Sarah and Anna, like, we should be giving every single minute we have on orbit to these causes, and we should be debating like crazy, from a prioritization perspective, what's making on the mission. If the mission gets cut short, which are the ones we have to get accomplished, and then which ones can we shift to to subsequent missions. So we're going to keep evaluating that throughout the entire Polaris program as more inbounds come in as well.
And there's a significant operational flair to this mission and subsequent missions. And that's where we want to leverage and benefit, our quest for making space exploration more accessible to all. And these are necessary experiments, science and research that's going to help move those needles.
So Jared, you're flying as a repeat astronaut and will be the first astronaut to fly on Dragon twice. Scott, this will be your first flight. However, you were heavily involved in Inspiration 4. How does the preparations and the work you've already done on the Inspiration 4 mission, how has that prepared you for the upcoming Polaris flight?
Well, if anything, observing Jared be taught and trained by Sarah has created an immense level of confidence moving forward and being a part of, now this side of the fence as part of the crew. I'm looking forward to every single element of the training that we're going to go through, from the basic skill sets we're going to learn on the systems of Dragon and Falcon, on into more of the subjective training elements with things that are specific to this mission, with the EVA, with the altitude, with Starlink, and then ultimately the team building that has already started and will continue throughout this entire process with the mountain climbing, with the fighter jet training. It's just going to be an awesome journey.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think you could outline such an ambitious set of objectives for the first mission if you didn't have a crew with just a lot of background and experience already in this. I mean, again, no one's more knowledgeable going into this mission than Sarah and Anna. They're just brilliant, unbelievable background, great engineers, very talented. They're going to bring so much into this. I was fortunate to fly on Falcon and Dragon previously, and Kid, not only did he observe his mission director the whole way, I mean, he was there on, in mission control throughout the duration of it. And what that allows us to do is focus on the things that haven't been done before. And there's quite a few of them as it relates to Polaris Dawn. And that's what's going to enable us to get it done within the timeframes we've outlined.
I am certainly the weak link and need to start studying yesterday.
There you go. Is Sarah still going to be heavily involved in astronaut training for this mission, or will that go to someone else, considering she's on the crew now?
Yeah, I believe, she's going to be on the crew. So
right.
Now I'm quite sure she's going to be very familiar with the team that is going to be training us. But this is really important because regardless of our individual knowledge on this one, it's how we apply it as a team. It's so important. I mean, having gone through this with Inspiration 4, having 4 people, in the simulator at the same time when something's going wrong, so that and then seeing how everybody performs and anticipating each other's moves, it's immensely beneficial. So regardless of any individual knowledge, past experience, getting together, truly training as a team is just vitally important for the mission.
And, I couldn't ask for a better scenario. I got a seasoned astronaut, and I've got 2 of the, experts as far as the training is concerned. And just like flying fighters, you have an instructor, other people can provide instruction within, a mission or a training event. So having, all this team is going to help all of us come together and train appropriately.
So for the first mission, you're targeting a high apogee to get some high altitude, potentially break the Gemini program record. And then you also mentioned that the spacewalk is going to take place at around 500 kilometers altitude. So is there Dragon maneuvering between those two phases? Does that require an expendable Falcon launch? What's the flight profile look like for Dawn?
Yeah, I mean, we're not planning an expendable booster flight, so it should absolutely be recovered. Yeah, you're just going to phase down in altitude. I mean, it'll initially be like a highly elliptical orbit. You'll phase down to about 500 kilometers towards the latter part of the mission, and really what that'll do is just set us up well in the event anything unexpected happens during an EVA. You're going to want to be in a position to probably come home a little bit quicker, and that just preserves the most kind of deorbit opportunities for us.
What crew member, if you can say, will be conducting the EVA?
Yeah, we don't know at this point. I mean, we took advantage of the fact that we're all out here in Hawthorne to have another, kind of mission status meeting, and there's going to be a lot more of them. There's just still a lot to learn, and I think what's going to happen is as we go through training, we're going to figure out, which crew members are going to be best to undertake that portion of it. The reality is, like, all four of us are going to be, in under pressurized operations in a vehicle vented down to vacuum. Right. So. It's going to take all four of us to kind of get through that objective specifically, and you just want to put the right people in the right places to increase chances of success.
Gotcha. And then let's see here. Was there any talk for when planning for this EVA, and maybe this is also still in work, versus some type of trying to put an airlock in Dragon, or was it always you had to do a full depress kind of system, and as training for that procedure already started?
Yeah, I mean, we did not anticipate putting in airlock. I think the idea is to, again, the whole kind of game plan is to work towards Starship. So you're undertaking building blocks with the vehicle and generally the capabilities you have today to inform, safe operations of Starship. So you're going to learn from this to affect that design, not really, change Dragon. And sorry, I guess the second part of your question?
Was just training, has training for that, for EVA stuff already started?
Yeah, we've already done some work actually already. I was able to suit up again in my Inspiration 4 suit, and I think I look like a robot, fully pressurized. But yeah, no, we actually, we have no intention to use that suit, but the idea we can obviously learn from it and ultimately, maybe inform some of the design changes on the EVA suit we will fly with.
Yeah, and standard SpaceX fashion, they're taking it to the nth level as far as making sure that we are full with the training for the EVA. They're discussing suspension systems. We've discussed other opportunities with NBL. We'll figure it out, and they're working through the syllabus now. But again, we got the confidence necessary that the team's going to put together the right training plan for us.
You mentioned the first mission is supposed to last up to 5 days. You mentioned that the EVA is obviously a factor towards the end of the mission. What other factors might influence the actual length of the Dawn mission?
Weather, for sure.
Okay, cool.
I mean, that's the biggest factor, that we can't hang out at the space station. We have limited life support consumables, and we're going to use up a lot of them when we vent down to vacuum and repress. So I think the idea is not nominal mission duration should be 5 days, and then based on experiences, we can flex.
Okay, cool. So Jared, are you planning on flying and or commanding all 3 missions, or is that still under discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I think in large part it's going to depend how this first mission goes. So as I mentioned, I think during the press conference, none of us were signed off for human spaceflight until about 8 days prior to the launch of Inspiration 4. We're graded through this, so hopefully we undertake a really good mission, and then can have the opportunity to continue to participate.
Can you speak to any of the technology demonstrations? You mentioned a couple. I know one was through Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. There were some other already named organizations that have tech demonstrations. Can you speak to what those will be?
I think the game plan is, and just also because we have limited time today, we're going to do a whole science tech research update and kind of double click on every one of them. We're actually still doing somewhat of a prioritization exercise to determine if some of these do fit, on Polaris Dawn or should be bumped to another mission. So yeah, I mean, I'd hate to go into too much specifics and find out it's going to go go on another mission. But
Sure.
we are trying to maximize every minute we literally have on orbit.
Gotcha. And then for just each of you, what is the most exciting thing about Polaris Dawn and the Polaris program overall to both of you personally?
I got to say the crew, the team. It's not only the four crew members, but it's everyone. It's everyone behind the scenes. It's our embedded team of directors that are, the utmost professionals that we relied upon during Inspiration 4, and obviously everyone here at SpaceX. We couldn't be more proud to be in this partnership with them, and it's going to be just an awesome journey from beginning to end.
I think it's what it all means when we get through this. So for example, we were just, as Kid mentioned, we were just up in the suit lab here, right? And I was more excited by the fact that they were working on an EVA suit than the operational implications of it. Like, what does this mean that you're building a spacesuit? It means people are going to start doing spacewalks. It means we're that much closer to, getting to the moon and Mars. Now, when the Polaris program ends, if it's successful, it means human beings are flying on starships. And if you've gotten to that point, I mean, you're going back to the moon. And if you can get to the moon, it's not much more after that to get to Mars. So I think just like with Inspiration 4, I mean, I was always excited. Like, if we get this right, think of all the fun missions to follow, all the exciting missions to follow. Well, now it's like when the chapter closes on the Polaris program, it means we're ready for the moon. It's pretty incredible.
That is incredible. Both of you, thank you so much for your time today. I think we're kind of running short here, so
yeah, I think we got to wrap up. I'm sorry we cut it we were a little late for you on that, but we'll connect throughout the whole program.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck to you both, and as well as Sarah, Anna, and very excited to hear about this and excited to talk about it more soon.
Yeah, sounds great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you both.